Welcome to One on One. I'm Steve Adubato. More importantly, I want to introduce my college classmate who's done awfully well, better than most, better than me, I know. Tom Taranto, president of Bergen County's United Way. How you doing, Tom?
Very well, Steve. Good to see you.
Let's talk the fact that you and your colleagues at the United Way are very involved in housing, particularly affordable housing. Two areas. One, as it relates to autism, people who are dealing with autism, and the other having to do with victims of domestic violence. Break it down for us.
Sure. We do a broad range of affordable housing throughout pretty much the northern part of the state, Steve. But two of our projects, I think, are particularly noteworthy. One is in Ramsey, where we built for the first time with public financing, and only the second project of its type in the country, housing that was purpose-built for folks with autism. So special design considerations, hyperallergenic flooring, carpeting, a whole range of different kinds of thought and process in terms of that building. And it's now currently a home for 9 individuals, as you may know and probably well know. New Jersey, #1 in the nation in terms of the incidence of autism. So the cohort of young people who are going to require housing over time in New Jersey is pretty staggering. So our design features were meant to be replicated, and we have a couple of other sites where we hope to, the design exterior will change, the aesthetic will change on the outside.
Why does that matter so much, Tom? The design?
The design, because what we've discovered is that, for example, we have one young man who lives in Ramsey who was not able to go outside without earphones on. So oral stimulation would be a trigger for him. Now that he lives in Ramsey, he takes his headphones off and he can live comfortably in his own home. Because, for example, the way the air conditioning or the HVAC system was designed, it's baffled, it's in the basement, it's special soundproofing. So there isn't any of the kind of hums either from the electrical, the lighting, or from the heating and ventilation systems that could be an oral trigger, for example, for folks with autism who are highly sensitive to those kinds of noises.
How does it help them? How does it help them in terms of their development?
Well, it helps them in terms of the fact that they're not preoccupied, in this particular example, by those kinds of ambient noises. They're very comfortable. The home is very spacious. The need for service, we have found in all the supportive housing that we've done, diminishes because people basically flourish. They develop their skills. They key off one another. So we have discovered that the support services which are provided by direct care providers actually diminish over time.
You know, the other area, which is so interesting, not in a great way, but in an important way, victims of domestic violence, women who are suffering from domestic violence. You and your colleagues at the United Way have gotten into this. Talk about it.
Well, people who have suffered domestic violence are considered a special population, a special needs population.
Where do they go?
Well, housing for folks with who've survived domestic violence is in short supply. So we came across a project that's pretty interesting in New Brunswick. We talked about it previously. One of the oldest churches in New Brunswick. A woman, about 20 years ago, a woman who was being battered, sought refuge in the church. The batterer followed her there and set the back of the church on fire. Fortunately, no one was hurt. She was injured. The church badly damaged. And in kind of an ironic twist, the fact that the back of the church had to be rebuilt meant that the historic hold, if you will, over redevelopment.
I mean, you couldn't develop it because it was under some sort of historic hold that said you couldn't develop it because it was on a list of historic landmarks.
Right. So what we're doing is it's the readaptive use of a church, but we're not eliminating the church use. We're actually reducing the sanctuary and preserving it because the membership of the church has declined over time. So now we're giving the church back a sanctuary that's smaller, fits the congregation, will be quite beautiful, modernizing the mechanical systems. Previously, the church had no air conditioning and did not have a working heating plant. And we're wrapping 10 apartments around the back of the church in collaboration with the State Historic Preservation Office. So we're carefully preserving all of the features of the church that make it so important from a historic perspective. This, by the way, is where Rutgers College, then known as Queens College, first started. In fact, in the cemetery there are 5 former presidents of Rutgers who are interred there. So highly sensitive site, but you know, really a wonderful adaptive reuse, especially when you consider what occurred to the church.
What does it mean to these women?
It means permanent, safe, affordable housing. We've already identified 8 of 10 tenants. This project will be done, we expect, by around mid-December. occupancy for January 1 of 2016.
You know, I've often thought about this, Tom, the reaction of a community. The whole "not in my backyard" syndrome, you know. That's okay, I want you to help other people, I want you to build affordable housing, but not in my backyard.
Right.
What have you found?
Well, Steve, I think we have about 20 projects in the pipeline. We have 7 projects under construction right now in communities like Mahwah, Tenafly, New Brunswick. We have preliminary site plan approval for supportive housing. In fact, a replication of our model in Ramsey, the housing devoted to folks with autism in Colts Neck. When I mentioned earlier that autism is pretty prevalent in the state of New Jersey, it's not uncommon for us to go before a mayor and council to explore the possibility of a project and discover that a council member or a mayor has a child or a nephew or a niece who is developmentally disabled. When we go before a planning board, similarly, we often find that members of that planning board have a direct firsthand experience.
How do they respond?
They respond positively. We really
No real pushback?
What we have found is that education is the key. So often what we'll do is we'll have an informal meeting or a caucus in a Panera Bread or at a Starbucks. We'll, in one case, in fact, today, we're closing on a piece of property in Glen Rock done in collaboration with the mayor and council there. And in the neighborhood where we're acquiring this particular piece of property, the mayor went around door to door and spoke to all the neighbors and explained what the project was.
No real pushback?
There was some, but until folks understood, until folks were kind of educated and made aware of what we build. And the other, I think, crucial piece is that we build an extraordinarily attractive product.
I mean, physically it looks good.
Physically, the curb appeal.
But let me ask you this, before I let you out of here. Are you getting a sense, Tom, that most people are saying, I want to help those who are dealing with autism, I want to help those who are victims of domestic violence, and I'm okay with it in my own community if it's built the right way and it has, quote unquote, your term, curb appeal? You sense that?
Yeah, I do. What we have found as we have met with different governing bodies throughout the state of New Jersey, one is that the beauty of the product is very appealing and becomes the brochure, if you will.
Right.
And then secondly, what we have found is that most governing bodies, most mayor and councils are interested in doing affordable housing. They just need a path to do it.
You help them do it?
Well, it's been so litigious in the state of New Jersey, affordable housing, a pejorative term. And we've managed to demystify it, if you will,
Good
for
stuff.
a lot of governing bodies.
All right, here's the last question. We were in political science classes together, and we talked about leadership as kids.
Right.
So here's the question before I let you out. Biggest leadership challenge you have faced in your life as a leader in the nonprofit world is? Leadership challenge. Go ahead, on the spot.
I think the biggest leadership challenge that we have faced has been to cut through the process and the bureaucracy and to take action. Sometimes well done is better than well said. And here in this state, you really have to, I think, push pretty hard to get something accomplished. So being in motion and staying in motion, I say, is a leadership lesson.
Tom Taranto, president of Bergen County's United Way. Thanks, Tom. Good stuff.
My pleasure. Thank you,
Well done.
Steve.
Stay right there. One-on-one will continue right after this. Thank you, Tom.